Savills, a leading tenant advisory commercial real estate firm. We are in week 38 of social distancing as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and exactly 7 weeks away until the presidential inauguration. In the news today, the United Kingdom became the first country to approve Pfizer's vaccine for the coronavirus, and Attorney General Barr told the Associated Press that there was no widespread voter fraud in the 2020 presidential election. Today's topic is how literacy and accessibility power learning. And we are so fortunate today to be joined by Dr. Carla Hayden, the 14th Librarian of Congress. Dr. Hayden, what a treat. Great to see you.
Well, thank you, Ken. This is a treat. And I'm sitting in what's been called one of the most beautiful buildings in Washington, D.C., the Thomas Jefferson Building.
And that's not a virtual background. You're really there, which is pretty exciting.
I'm really here in the members' room.
Amazing. Well, look, give us a quick update about how the last 38 weeks have been for you, for your team, for the Library of Congress. What has this been like? You know, is it for an institution that gets 2 million visitors a year in person?
It's been very interesting to see the acceleration of the library's digital plans and strategy. The Library of Congress has been digitizing parts of its collections, the largest library in the world, 171 million items. So it's been a process that has been jet propelled really now during this time. And we've been doing a lot of virtual programming and shifting, and it has really made us even more committed to reaching out digitally all over.
Wow, incredible. So you mentioned how it's been an accelerant. What else about the visitor experience, about the role of the library, do you think has kind of accelerated as a result of COVID, right? It's one of these trends we see through all these coffee talks is,
yes,
you know, various sectors that are kind of having this massive acceleration. Some things may go back to normal, but some things might not. So how do you kind of see that playing out with your work?
One of the things with the Library of Congress and libraries all over the country and even the world, because we are all connected and it's a network of libraries. The United States, for instance, has more public libraries than any other type of institution when you think about it and know about it. And so the Library of Congress is the centerpiece for a national system. It's the National Library. And what has happened is during this time, when most public libraries have to be physically closed, they are finding that they are getting much more, let's say, resourceful. Some libraries have drones that deliver materials to homes. Other libraries are taking their mobile units, the old bookmobiles that are now mobile units, and going into communities and being those hotspots for communities because of the lack of digital access. And so what the Library of Congress has done is really accelerated on making sure that the access to the 61 million items that we have digitized, historical documents, the papers of 23 presidents from Washington to Coolidge, the papers of Orville and Wilbur Wright, Rosa Parks, 36 Supreme Court justices, just wonderful photographs, films, all of these things that are now available digitally. We are making sure through town halls with legislators, working directly with public libraries, that people know that they can have access to the library digitally when our physical doors are closed.
That's great. So how should parents, educators, community leaders be thinking about the Library of Congress, maybe in a way they hadn't before, when it comes to increasing access to just knowledge and the amazing resources that I think folks may not realize the magnitude of what you have there?
And it's also a resource for learning about the nation's history and the people who live there and have lived here. And so what we have developed with our education team is a series of lesson plans, ready-made, and really connecting with teachers who are, as you can imagine, having to juggle their home lives with virtual learning. They had to do it. And so we have streamlined the access to our resources digitally, and we have developed a page called Engage, for families. So you go on our website, loc.gov, you can look up families because we know that families are challenged as well. And there are a lot of activities that you can engage in with your families, like cooking with history. The Library of Congress has the world's largest collection of cookbooks and things like Thomas Jefferson's recipe in his own hand for macaroni. Well, what better thing to do on a afternoon? And Rosa Parks, I mentioned her papers, we have in her own hand her peanut butter pancake recipe. So just getting ways that people, you could take a nature walk with Walt Whitman and his poetry. So making sure that when you get on the website for the Library of Congress, you can push teachers, you can push families, you can push teens and interact with our youth ambassador. And you can also do your in-depth research as well. And we have a special button, Ask a Librarian. So you'll be in a live chat with one of our education specialists.
So when you came to the Library of Congress, what surprised you most about the collection itself? Was there something that you just had no idea was even there? I mean, how often did you kind of come across things that you're just continuously surprised every day, or what's it like?
As soon as I stepped down from being sworn in as Librarian of Congress, I started tweeting. And I said, come with me on an adventure. I'm a career librarian, but even I didn't know that, and I'm a baseball fan. The Library of Congress has the scouting reports of Branch Rickey. And you can see they were typewritten. Can't hit, can't run, don't hire, okay, don't sign. We were able to have Henry Hank Aaron look at his scouting report. He'd never seen it before, and give him a copy. But these are the treasures, and we call it a treasure chest, that we are really digging up and opening up to everyone, because there's so many. Harry Houdini's collection. Just, it's amazing what is here.
First of all, I'm just so shocked about the collection, but also your use of social media, I think, is very cutting edge, right? I loved the other week, I think it was, that you showed like the original Deadpool comic book. I was blown away by the comic book collection, and that I didn't know you and Ryan Reynolds are Twitter buddies now.
The world's largest collection of comic books. So when Black Panther came out, we were able to show the evolution of that. We also connected with a Comic-Con and had, you can imagine the people from Comic-Con coming up the steps of this beautiful building in full costume and looking at those collections. So what we're really focused on is making sure that people who are curious and interested in things can, when they look for something, the Library of Congress's resources will come up, especially things in the news that they might be interested in.
That's incredible. Tell us a little bit more about the visitor experience and what you're working on, right? I mean, the library is obviously just this incredible physical building. I was talking to a real estate friend the other day, and they kind of described that immediate area as kind of like the intellectual super block of Washington, with the Folger Library, Supreme Court, Library of Congress. What's your vision for this kind of, broader visitor experience, and how is it going to maybe be different post-COVID?
3 buildings comprise a campus of the Library of Congress. The historic Thomas Jefferson building we're doing, and that was built in 1897, the first building in Washington to have electricity, and it's very proud. And it also was designed to resemble an Italian palace, to show that in this country, we built palaces to knowledge. So it's gorgeous. And then there's a John Adams building and a Madison building. So this campus, and you're right with the Folger, it's just the intellectual center. What we want to make sure is that people know what the Library of Congress is and how it can relate to them. So part of our visitor experience, the next 3 to 4 years, we're working on this. We've been very fortunate to have support from Congress, and they've appropriated already about $20 million. To have, for the first time, an orientation center, so many people come to the Library of Congress physically through the Capitol Visitor Center. There's an actual tunnel. So that's where they will find out about Thomas Jefferson's library, the foundation of this enterprise, and they will find out about the different collections and also the Veterans History Project. All of these different things they'll find out about, creating for the first time a learning lab. And you can imagine during this time when we're all thinking about touching and interactive, we are having the benefit of these experiences, looking to our museum colleagues as well and what they're doing to how to have more voice activated interactions, but the young and the young at heart. And then for the first time, a treasures gallery.
Wow.
We have all of these wonderful things, but when you see the copy of the Gettysburg Address that we believe, and it's pretty well documented, that Abraham Lincoln actually took on to the field with his revisions. Those types of things we'll be able to display for the first time. And so one of our, just when you think about a person who is a patriotic philanthropist, Mr. David Rubenstein is helping lead the effort and has pledged quite a bit to this. And we can make an announcement, I think, today.
Let's hear it. This is the place to make it.
We have just really solidified a wonderful gift from the Opperman Foundation, Dwight and Julie Opperman. And you may know, and people that are participating, he was the founder of Westlaw, when you think about that, in the publishing company. And his wife, Julie, is pursuing that interest he passed in education and literacy. And so they are donating and giving a gift of $1 million to the visitor experience to make sure that people are connected to the Library of Congress. And we couldn't be more pleased.
I mean, well, congratulations on that gift. I mean, obviously, this effort is a true public-private partnership with the support of Congress and obviously David Rubenstein, but $1 million commitment to continue to enhance and reimagine the visitor experience.
And I'm excited because I can also share that the Annenberg Foundation in Los Angeles is also pledging $1 million as well. So we're well on our way, and we're just so pleased that people are recognizing that in this time, we have to make sure that libraries like the Library of Congress are available and accessible for free to everyone.
We're going to post a little bit in the comments section here. You can obviously support the Library of Congress at loc.gov/donate. So you could join the ranks of the Opperman Foundation and David Rubenstein in supporting this amazing work. As you mentioned, libraries are a palace. How do you view the role of libraries in communities moving forward? And one of the things that we've noticed through these conversations is just the inequitable impact COVID has had on communities of color, communities that lack access to broadband. How do you envision libraries maybe stepping up to play a role in ensuring access to education, to learning, and maybe also on the economic side to just workforce training and development and so on? How do you see libraries, maybe playing a role in all that?
There are over 15,000 libraries and communities throughout this country, and they have served as opportunity centers for decades. They are the places that people, and you have testimonials from people who have succeeded and have said that the library was my university. It's been called the People's University. And the doors are open to anyone. And in the last few years, libraries have been the place that have equalized the digital divide. People come into libraries and file for jobs because they have the high-speed computers there, and they can get on with virtual learning. Where can young people go and get that high-speed network and have guides on the side? We call librarians the original search engines. So you have people who are trained in information literacy. They are opportunity centers. And so making sure that there is a place And some libraries are even serving as education hubs and pods as they can during this time. And that's where people can go and get on computers, have the time. And with e-government coming and such a part of what we do, filing for all types of things, you have a place in communities that allows you to come in, no questions asked. We only ask questions to find out how we can help you. We don't need to know what you're looking for or that. We only are trying to help you find the information you want, and entertainment too, the great equalizer.
I think on that note too, I mean, when I remember reading when you were the head of the American Library Association, to that point about just being there as a resource for communities and asking how to help but not asking questions. I mean, how important is that? I remember you were obviously very vocal on the policy side for the Patriot Act and then other things that came up in the early 2000s. I mean, which is just incredible. I mean, to think about the library being a place that's welcoming and not intrusive on people.
Yes, because you may, and we talk about this quite a bit in the library community, everyone has a right to know. And that you, just because you are interested in a subject, doesn't mean you want to become something or do something. You're hearing it in the news, you want to know, what is this? And so you have a right to ask for information, get the information, without being penalized for asking about it. And in this day and age, having that access to an information source and a trusted source too. And that's why librarians, in terms of the guide on the side, we vet resources and have for years.
It just strikes me at a time where misinformation is so prevalent,
Yes.
especially with the explosive growth of social media. The libraries
Yes.
potentially play such an integral part in restoring trust, increasing access to knowledge, to know what's going on. I mean, what role do you think you and maybe library leaders around the country can play maybe in helping kind of restore some of this trust and
we know
through
that
information?
libraries are trusted resources in communities. And all you have to do is think about the stereotype of librarians. You know that if a librarian gets upset about something, you see it in commercials, if they whip off their glasses and jump on the table, that's some good gum, right? So we know that we are viewed as those trusted sources, and that this is a time for us to really reassure people that that is continuing in the digital age. And so that's what the library community is making sure. We have a term, information literacy. There's the basic literacy to allow you to decipher text, but then how do you determine what is the best source? Health information. So much in the news now. Where are the sources that you can go online, and which ones are the gold standards?
That's incredible. When you think about moving forward and in the future and in enhancing some of these public-private partnerships or continuing to raise the profile of the library, how do you look to, whether they're larger media companies? I saw that amazing webinar, I guess, that you did with Hillbilly Elegy and Netflix. I mean, are you thinking more about these kinds of strategies?
Yes.
Take us behind the scenes. What's your plan to kind of continue to raise the profile of the library?
I'm glad you mentioned the partnership with Netflix and the author, J.D. Vance, and the director, Ron Howard. That was an instance of, you have a book that's been made into a film. And so making the Library of Congress not just a resource for materials and documents, but also a cultural resource and connector. And so we are doing much more with that in terms of our online programming. The National Book Festival, it was the 20th year. We had big plans. We had to switch into a digital format, and we had a partnership with PBS and also with a number of organizations to present the authors online. And so that's where we know that we can connect and make the Library of Congress relevant to what's happening today and what might be happening in the future. So author programs, you're going to be seeing more of that. Live concerts, live from the library, we'll be broadcasting out. And so our digital footprint will get quite large.
So do you see potentially a silver lining through this entire pandemic and this challenging situation being an acceleration of your efforts to potentially just grow faster digitally and increase
Yes.
maybe even more broadly the exposure of the library, maybe in a way that it wouldn't have happened this year?
Yes, quite a bit. And it has also demonstrated the flexibility and the abilities of our staff members to be able to think about how to present things in a different format. And so the things we had just finished a digital strategy plan, the first ever about a year and a half ago. Well, it's in turbo drive now.
Right.
And it has shown that people are looking for content now in the digital realm that they can say, okay, this is a Library of Congress program. We know that this has a certain reliability, authority in many ways, and we can sit back and enjoy. That has been the most wonderful thing about looking at a crisis and seeing what are the positive opportunities and what are the lessons learned and how can we move forward.
That's
And
incredible.
other libraries are doing this as well.
That's amazing. You mentioned our kind of perception of a librarian. And 80%, I think, of librarians around the country are women, right? But the Librarian of Congress had never been a woman until you came along, huh? What's the significance of you being the librarian?
That was quite something, because librarianship is one of what's called the four feminized professions: education, social work, nursing, and librarianship, where 85 to 90% of the workforce is female, and sometimes quite a bit, okay, I'll say quite a bit of the time, the top management of the institutions are not female. And so, yes, there was joy in Mudville when I was appointed, the first woman since 1802.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, and then are you in still constant communication with librarians around
yes.
the country? How does this network work? Just behind the scenes, right? I mean, you had this role on the advocacy, now you're the actual librarian. I mean, how much are you kind of pushing down and funneling versus maybe crowdsourcing up to get best practices and innovative ideas to scale and be that kind of voice for them?
Well, the Library of Congress provides cataloging and services to other libraries. And what we are making sure that we do is that we connect to the different associations. There's the Urban Libraries Council. There are all of these groups, state library associations. And so the Library of Congress works with them. And it's an up and down process as well. There are best practices that local libraries are doing. There's one library in Michigan that has a whole section called Beyond Books, and they let people check out musical instruments, sewing machines, traffic cones, teaching somebody to drive, all of these things. So we are able to think about what libraries mean in people's lives and be part of this vast network of libraries. And so as Librarian of Congress, we have been doing more convening and more participating in all of the library activities.
Unbelievable. Well, Dr. Hayden, I mean, this has been such a treat. And I honestly think if one of the silver linings of all this is the fact that people maybe come to more greatly appreciate the significant role that our libraries play in our communities as trusted sources, as resources to access knowledge. It doesn't sound like there could be a more important time for the work you're doing and your team is doing at the Library of Congress. So we're so grateful to you for taking the time to have coffee with us.
Oh, yes. I've got to get a mug.
I will drop it off. You can
All
put it in
right.
the Library of Congress right there. But we're very grateful. Thank you to everyone tuning in today. Again, loc.gov/donate. Please consider supporting Library of Congress, Dr. Hayden, and all their amazing work. Our next Coffee with Ken is going to be next Wednesday, December 9th. We will be hosting Melody Barnes, a former domestic policy advisor to President Obama, to discuss the effectiveness and importance of a presidential transition and why it matters. In the meantime, please practice social distancing, wash your hands, and wear a mask. Dr. Hayden, such a treat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye, everyone.